Gruesome Magazine.
Hello once again. I am your host, Doc Rotten, and this is Horror News Radio, the official Gruesome Magazine podcast. Back with me tonight are the scariest, goriest, bloodiest co-hosts on the net. Tonight, we are reviewing Greenland, featuring Gerard Butler. Yes, the disaster film to end all disaster films. Maybe. All right, joining me tonight is Dave Dreher. Hey, Dave, how you doing?
I feel weird without my headphones on.
Yeah.
I feel naked.
You can see your ears.
Yeah, what's up with that?
Yeah. Instagram will drop you because of the barriers.
And I don't have the right adapter to be able to hook the. I gotta have a fucking Apple. Every time they come out with a new computer, they change their adapters and stuff.
Yeah. You gotta get a dongle. Gotta get your dongle.
Yeah, I gotta get my dongle.
All right. Also, I know it is a weird word. Also joining us tonight is award-winning filmmaker Christopher G. Moore. Sir, how you doing?
He's already got his dongle. I can tell.
He's got his.
Let's not talk about our dongles, Dave. Okay, that's a different podcast.
Leave our dongles out of it.
We'll save that for Dongle Land.
Yes.
Review.
I'm secure enough in my masculinity. I can talk.
There you go. All right.
Fine.
Yeah.
We'll talk about your dongle. Okay.
Yeah, this is a podcast about 3 dongles in a basement. All right.
3 dongles in a basement. From the makers of 3 Men and a Baby.
Oh no! Wow.
It's gonna be our memoir when we write it.
Oh yes, there you go. H&R, 3 dongles. All right, what we're going to do is we're going to give our first impressions of Greenland. We're going to talk about the film a little bit, and then we're going to wrap things up with our final thoughts, our score, and our favorite scene. What film are we talking about tonight? Yes, Greenland from STX Films, available in theaters on demand digital December 18th. Synopsis is: a family fights for survival as a planet-killing comet races to Earth. John Garrity, his strange wife Allison, and young son Nathan make a perilous journey to their only hope for sanctuary. Amid terrifying news accounts of cities around the world being leveled by the comet's fragments, the Garritys experience the best and the worst of humanity. As the countdown to global apocalypse approaches zero, their incredible trek culminates in a desperate and last-minute flight to a possible safe haven. Wow, that's the first, second, and third act all wrapped up right in there. All right, directed by Rick Romanois, written by Chris Sparling. The cast includes Gerard Butler, Morena Baccarin, Roger Dale Floyd, Scott Glenn, David Denman, Hope Davis, Andrew Batchelor, and Joshua Michael, among others. Wow, did you catch all that, guys? Did you catch all that?
I got it all.
All right, let's do our first impressions. Dave Dreher, you are up first, sir.
Okay, I am a giant mark for any disaster film. I love disaster films. I came of age. Poseidon Adventure was my Star Wars. I freaking loved the Poseidon Adventure when it first came out. I would act out scenes in the back of the school bus. I mean, I was that nerd who was doing that. So, and ever since then, through Earthquake and all the airport movies, and you name it.
Tower Inferno.
So I was looking forward to this film, and I have to say, I still enjoyed The View. I really did, but this movie just can't really decide what it wants to be. They try to build these moments, these big dramatic moments, and then they just completely fall flat on pretty much every occasion. There are a few moments of true tension, that I kind of enjoyed, but they're really kind of few and far between. I kind of come away with it with a little bit of a middle of the road feeling. I wanted to like it a lot more than I did, but I still liked it.
I wanted to like it more. I still liked it.
There was a lot of really forced stuff. Scott Glenn was just completely underused. I mean, 1,000% underused. It was such a bizarre thing, and they stole a lot from other disaster films, and more recent ones like Deep Impact and movies like that. They stole a lot of the same scenes, basically. I mean, they really did. They were just like the exact same scenes.
In a lot of ways, they did.
Yeah. So, like I said, there's a lot to not recommend about this. but I still liked it. So, take from that what you will.
Yes. All right, Christopher G. Moore, sir, what was your first impression of Greenland?
Or as I call it, Shockwave the movie.
Shockwave the movie.
Gerard Butler gets hit by like several shockwaves, and I think an actual human being wouldn't be able to hear. I would have all kinds of injuries just from that. But somehow he's like Bruce Willis in Die Hard. No matter what you throw at him, he's still going to be able to get up and move around. You know what? I've been known to like a good disaster movie, whether it's like your Armageddon or even like alien attack type stuff, which involves disasters. But this kind of like, it's a real slog to get through. I think it's for it to be about such a disastrous type event, it's kind of boring in places. And then I've never seen a film where they somehow, without being too spoiler, where they split up the family unit in a way to where I'm like, how in the world are they going to be able to unite back up? And I just couldn't get past that. And I think, and then they have the whole thing about like, which is just the very beginning of the movie. It's not really giving anything away, to where they're supposedly this family who's been picked to be these people who go to this bunker or whatever in Greenland or whatever. And these bands are very important, but then by the end of the film, they don't even really check the bands anymore. So it's like, what was the purpose of it? You might as well just flew to Greenland to begin with. So yeah, it can get stressful at times because of the situations, because I think the one thing we've learned living in a pandemic is people get a little crazy, and I could see how people doing the same thing they've done during this pandemic, except 100 million times worse. Like some of the stuff they're doing in this. I also see people like, if they see like pieces of a meteorite hitting the earth, they're going to go party on top of the restaurant as well. So there's a lot of crazy people in this world. But yeah, I don't know, this movie is all over the place. And it's just as fragmented as the pieces of the meteorite that fall to the earth in this film.
Nice.
That just popped in my head. I feel so smart.
Ding.
And then you have, I hate to say this, but Scott Glenn is doing his best impersonation of a comatose Chris Christopherson in this film. And I've never seen Scott Glenn come off as like, is he awake? Are they? Is he a puppet? Did somebody stick a hand up his butt and makes him talk? Because he's literally just standing there talking throughout the. He doesn't really do anything. They might as well be one of those sort of internet videos where somebody just like animates a mouth over a dead body or something. I hate to say that about anybody, but he looks like he just woke up. They gave him the money and he just showed up and he got paid.
That might even be his house. They like showed up his house. Can we film you today?
Yeah. I don't know. They just
table playing poker. They happened to show up and
it's like he was on his way to the bathroom. Hey, you want to be in this movie? Okay. So yeah, I don't know. You have things like that, and I think Gerard Butler and Morena Baccarin, and even the little kid, I think, do a great job in their roles. But I mean, there's just long stretches where it's just them, like, it's like just showing all the walking parts in Lord of the Rings. It's just them finding a way to get to here, there, and then there's one part where he just shows up where he's supposed to be, and I'm like, how did he get there? So yeah, it's a little bit of a mess of a movie. It's a disaster film, and mainly how the storyline is plotted more than just the events that happen in it. And there's this long. I was like, wow. I kept looking at my watch, like, oh, this movie is like close to 2 hours or over 2 hours. I'm like, I don't know if this is. You kind of wanted the meteor to take you out, so you don't want to see the rest of the film. It's not a bad film. It's well crafted, but it's not very entertaining. At least not in my opinion.
Yeah, you guys are right. This movie, yeah, I'm like Dave. I love a good disaster film. I mean, Geostorm, which also has Gerard Butler, is the god awful worst disaster film, but it is kind of a guilty pleasure because of how absolutely effing stupid it is, right? This one takes itself so seriously. I mean, it's not going for the spectacle as much. I mean, it obviously it goes for it enough to get you there in the theater and sit your ass down, but or at home on your couch nowadays. But it's more about the family and the drama of it. It's which in some respects I kind of give them a thumbs up for, and that's ballsy. But there's long stretches where it either need to be edited down or exercise some of that stuff out of there. It was just kind of dull. But then you turn it around and I could name 2-3 scenes, definitely 3 scenes that are, really nerve wracking, and not any of them really have anything to do with the media, the comet and the meteorites and all the disaster itself, but what happens when, right? But at the same time, it's just not cohesive enough. It's not. It doesn't really commit to either one, the spectacle or the drama enough to make either one work. I think that's, Dave, what you were after. And but Gerard Butler. He's the, and he gets to do a Scottish accent, his natural Scottish accent through the whole thing, unless he's yelling, and then you can't tell.
Slipped in and out of it, but I actually found that a little distracting as I was watching.
Did you? Okay.
Sometimes that brogue was really thick. Really.
Yeah.
He had Kevin Costneritis throughout the film. It was like Robin Hood all over again.
But the 3 main characters had enough chemistry going on together to make it work. You felt that they were, because they're a broken family at first, and we're caught in the middle of all that drama too, and that plays out as you would expect. So it also has that element of predictability in that respect, right? So I don't think it pushes enough ground. It doesn't have its own identity enough to really stand out. Am I kind of right there? Do you guys recognize that as well?
Yeah. I think you're kind of hitting the nail on the head there.
Well, you know what? I mean, I like disaster films like you do, but I'm more in the frame of I like those big dumb disaster films where it's not all about. I think this one, it makes it about so many like things that we deal with now, like kids with medical problems, foreigners. There's so many different elements that are at play here that they're trying to make it. They're trying to, a lot of times when you have drama, the disaster stuff is just the backdrop for it. And this one, it almost tries to make it more at the forefront to where it's like, it makes it like the bigger deal, I guess.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really work, because then you have other people that are trying to make their way to these places so they can get on the plane. There's that one part where there's a debacle involving the kid and some people that pick up the wife and stuff. So, I think they're trying to play some of these bigger dramatic concepts that usually work in different movies and sometimes can work in disaster films as well. But I don't know. I think disaster films, you have to have that good balance, and sometimes it's, I'd rather see the drama and things like Armageddon or any of those type of films than this one that just doesn't work. It's like it's already dramatic enough with pieces of cosmic rocks falling out of the sky without having to it being about like insulin or racism. or or just more simple stuff like that. I don't know. I think there's a way to work it in, but because their focus needs to be more on that, it kind of sucks you out of what's happening, to where you have these long stretches where they're divided up and they're each having to deal with their own things, and it's like, and I almost feel like it would have been better if they'd been more stronger as keeping them together as more of a family unit, instead of just breaking them all apart and them having to deal with their own individual issues.
Well, I think you lose track of the ticking clock, right? With all that happening, you lose track that, because it's all coming down to, you got to get to a certain place by a certain time. And there were times where I kind of forgot that was a thing. So I'm not sure it worked in their favor.
Well, it becomes more about searching for things than it is about like, okay, the world's about to end. It should be about the world's about to end and not just for searching for things.
Well, they're getting called into this bunker, right? You don't think they would have thought that people are going to need insulin? I mean, that little bag was not going to be enough insulin to keep this kid alive for, however, 9 months, 10 months, however long they were going to be down in this bunker. These places would have been stocked with medical supplies. So to go back for it, this seemed kind of dumb for me.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah.
To get them to break them up,
Well, as someone that works with medical records at my job, sometimes there's an onset of diabetes that happens later on in life, or could happen during that process of being, cooped up for 9 months.
During the stress or a pregnancy,
you would have to have certain things in that bunker medicine wise to deal with that. So yeah, I don't know, and just I don't know. And then
that was my first thought. I was like, well, Jesus Christ, you're going into a government-funded bunker. They're going to have goddamn insulin. Don't worry about it.
I mean, it was a little bit of a stretch. I mean, if they was bringing somebody that was on a ventilator, that's what they were. I mean, it's no offense to everybody on ventilator.
Well, saying that how many with the amount of people that have diabetes in this country, that's
nobody would
be
make
nobody.
It.
There'd be 5 people in that bunker. If that was considered a chronic impairment, it's like, oh, I'm sure him being an architect and all the stressful things he does, he probably has heart disease. I'm surprised they let him on the plane.
Yeah, it was a little bit annoying that they did that.
It seemed more of a script choice than anything else. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And and then
some of the breast tension. Yeah, some of the best tension in the movie is when the son and wife are on their own. I mean, those are some of the higher stress scenes. I really like the stuff with the I don't want to spoil anything, but with the people that pick them up and that whole thing that happens, and I enjoyed that. I thought that was good. That had me perked me up. I was actually like on the edge of my seat a little bit, seeing how that was going to play out. So, I agree with you. I think it was a script choice there. Okay, somehow we got to get Gerard Butler away from these two so these things can happen to these two people. And
I mean,
what they went with.
Yeah, they could have made it a lot easier just having everything just, some kind of disaster actually hit the plane. Yeah, there's just 100 different ways you could have solved it. And I thought the way they did it was a little more insulting than helpful.
Well, it became more about the disasters of human beings than the disasters of what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And it became so much more about that and less about these things about to hit the earth. And then to me, it's like, why, it might as well could have been happening during the riots or something. It's like, I don't know. It became so much more about that it kind of took the piss out of what they're trying to escape from to begin with.
Absolutely. I thought the beginning was actually far better, although it was because it had you interested. I was like yelling, like, get out of that house. Stop talking to these people. Get out of that house. Drive away. Don't listen to them. It's just like, so if it's getting that, it's either that you're getting involved or they're just making dumb choices. But I think I was getting involved at first, and just come on, people. But then later on, it just, it just got kind of sillier and sillier, but not treated as being silly, right? It was treated as being the serious thing, and I was just like, this isn't working.
Well, yeah, I was actually yelling at my TV screen at one part because when they're trying to get near that military airfield or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're just holding the hand of their kid as these crowds of people, and I was like, pick that kid up and carry him, because I kept expecting somebody to steal him away or him to get like knocked away by all these crowds of people and stuff. And I'm like, I'm not a parent, but I would have picked the kid up just to make sure he's safe, and so we can get there as fast as possible, because you're getting lagged out by having to hold this little kid way down here all the time. But I mean, things like that are just kind of, I don't know. There's so many weird decisions that happened during this film that were kind of annoying. But who's to say what we do if a freaking meteor hit the Earth? How we would deal with that?
You can't even live through a virus. If a meteor hits, we're all fucked. It's over.
Well, I really don't even see how he could have even made it on the roads.
Now, wouldn't it, like, where is everybody? Wouldn't the roads be like totally?
I really think the roads have been a mess. I don't even. I mean,
because remember they were like on the entrance ramp and he backed up and.
But that was it. That was it. Like everybody was going to go on that one road for No, so it doesn't work that way.
Didn't you read the script? That was the way out.
Yeah, I know.
I don't want to read the script.
but it hurts. It hurts a film when you get caught up in that nonsense.
Yeah, when you caught up in the logic of things and you think about like how that would affect anybody. Granted, you do create things in movies that might not happen in reality because it adds to the drama, it adds to the fun of it. But there was like so many things that's like I feel like the situation could have turned out differently if they did this or that didn't really make sense, and it just and that's why
the big bad dumb ones, you don't stop. They're so loud and chaotic. You don't stop long enough to see that until later when you're going.
Right, exactly. Well, that's kind of what you got to do. I mean, if you're trying to make like a character-driven disaster movie, I mean, you look at something like The Impossible, which was just an amazing character-driven disaster film, and I mean, with amazing performances. What
about Towering Inferno?
You go stupid like 2012, where just nothing matters. It's just all out.
Not even physics.
Yeah, and this tried to be a little bit of both, and it just didn't quite make it.
Yeah, this felt even though it was like there was a deep impact, but it almost felt like those Volcano movies a little too. Where we're just trying to get away.
I love Volcano,
but those are more entertaining though.
Yeah. They are.
Like when the guy's walking in the lava and
it's such a glorious.
That's the dumbest.
I love that fucking movie.
Or when that what's it? Is it which one is it? Oh yeah, Dante's Inferno when he's trying to outrun that blast. The volcanic.
Dante's Peak, yeah. And the grandma's walking in the boiling water and
so good. Oh, you gotta love that.
I mean, it's so over the top crazy, but it's still entertaining. And I'd rather watch that kind of stuff where people are just stupid for no reason, but in a more over the top crazy way than this one, which they try to make it when it's more about the relationships and it's more about like dealing with all these different types of idiotic people in this world. I mean, I think Walking Dead got kind of bogged down some of that stuff as well when it comes to relationships with people.
Yeah, I think we talked. Dave, you said in the beginning, didn't know what it wanted to be. It's trying to be two different movies, right? It's trying to be that Lifetime drama version, and it's trying to be the over the top spectacle, and it doesn't quite work either way.
This probably could have worked better if it was like some kind of like Civil War movie, where it's more about like, people get so at each other's throats so much that America goes crazy and they have to escape to the border of Canada or something.
Yeah,
that would have made it a better way to tell this story than these elements being, because it was less about the disaster to some degree.
It was. What was that movie? Crimson Dawn? No, not Crimson Dawn. What was it?
Crimson Tide?
No, the Dawn movie. They made an 84.
Red Dawn?
Red Dawn, yeah. Kind of like one of those.
Wolverines,
yeah. I don't know. All right. Well, I think we've reached a border on this one. All right, what we're going to do now is we're going to wrap this up. We're going to give our final thoughts. We're going to give our score 1 to 5 and our favorite scene. But before we do, if you're still listening, thank you so much. Appreciate you being here. I hope you enjoy what we're doing. And to show you appreciation is real easy. All you have to do is hit the subscribe button down below, hit the like button. If you feel froggy, jump and leave us a comment. We would love to hear it. You don't like that?
Froggy?
Yeah, you never heard that?
You could have like, hey, send your little finger meteorite to smash
There you
the
go.
like button, right? That would have been a better way to do that.
Smash the like button with your finger meteorite. That sounds like
perfect.
It's like they're going to fling boogers at us. All right, let's do this. Let's do our final thoughts. Our score and favorite scene. Dave, start us off, please.
All right. Well, like I said, I am definitely the audience for this film because even though it is not that good, I still enjoyed it. There's a lot wrong with it, though. Again, don't go into it thinking you're going to see the disaster masterpiece of all time because that's just not going to happen. I'm going to give it a 2.75.
Okay.
I'm tempted for a 3, but I'm going to go 2.75. There are some true moments of tension. There are some kind of cool disaster moments that occur in it. Overall, it's just kind of uneven. I don't think they really know what they wanted to do with this. I'm not sure Gerard Butler was the right choice for the lead. I liked the lady that played the mom, and I liked the little boy. I thought they were both really good. I think Gerard Butler's kind of built his career on a little more action.
You might be onto something there, yeah.
And he just didn't. He seemed like an odd fit there. But again, with that being said, I really did enjoy it. Favorite scene? Boy, I don't know, and I don't want to give away anything too spoilery. I'm going to go without being too spoilery. Towards the end of the film, when they're on the plane.
You bugger.
Yeah, and there's an impact, and then we have a crash into an iceberg, I think.
Might even be a glacier.
Yeah, glacier or something like that. But that was pretty good, and even that at the end of that scene was kind of hokey with the dying pilot, using his eyes to signal where salvation lay. I thought that was kind of strange. So, but I'm still going to go with that as a favorite scene. It was pretty well shot and kind of tension filled. And hey, death by glacier, you don't see that every day.
No, you don't. You don't.
Yeah.
No. All right, Christopher G. Moore, give us your final thoughts, your score and favorite scene for Greenland.
So yeah, I mean, this is not your traditional disaster film. I think it tries to incorporate these sort of normal dramatic elements of people dealing with people that takes away from the main reason this is, everything's supposed to be happening because of this meteorite crashing into the earth. So, and I think in some ways it becomes so much about the journey that you really forget about what the destination is about, which is in the title, Greenland. It really shouldn't have been called Greenland, although I do think that they should have called it Shockwave, the movie. Because I feel like Gerard Butler got paid to basically get knocked down by shockwaves a few times. Maybe a shockwave could have knocked some life into Scott Glenn.
Poor Scott Glenn.
Yeah, so it's for a disaster film, it's kind of boring.
Yeah.
I mean, it literally is. It's people always give Lord of the Rings crap because it's mainly about them going to this one place or another place, but this actually makes the journey much more boring, and kind of sucks the energy out of the film to where I don't know about you guys. I kept waiting. It's like I'm waiting for something to hit the earth more. I'm waiting for more explosions. Which is kind of sad when you're praying for meteorites to happen in the film because it's not entertaining enough. And I don't blame Gerard Butler. I just blame. I think any person you put in that part would have been, just raw meat just sitting there decaying in front of your eyes, because it's not, you can't really do a lot with that part. So that's a weird analogy. So as for a rating, I think I'll give it a 2.
Oh, okay.
I'll give it a 2. It's a pretty it's shot fine. It's shot just as great as any other sort of disaster film, but I think it comes down to the story elements that are the real disaster of this disaster film. Because it literally, it might as well be meteorites chipping away at your entertainment value every time we have to see them having to like search for somebody or go there or go there. It's sort of like, it really just sucks the energy out of it to where by the end you're like, either you guys die or get to Greenland already. So as for favorite scene, I probably would have done the plane scene. Like, there's not a lot to pick and choose from this film. But I'll say, since he picked that one, I'll pick the scene where they're in their SUV, or I think they're a truck or SUV, and these pieces of meteor are just dropping all around them, and they're like exploding cars next to them and stuff. It's a really sort of fun action filled scene that I wish there was more of. I almost wish it was like different levels of video game. Oh, we finally got to here, but now we have to deal with fire falling. Oh, we got to here, but now we got the ground sinking underneath you. I mean, it would have been much more entertaining than what we got, which is more about like, oh, I'm being racist against you because you have a Scottish brogue. So it is what it is.
Oh, man, really, like, are you from here? This movie is dull. It is dull, and it misses its own points, and misses points that it could make. There are so many. There's so much it could. I mean, it wanted to say something, and it went after, I think, fairly predictable and easy targets when it had tons of other things it could have tried to say. And in some respects, it's interesting that they want more intimate because we're basically seeing it from this family's eyes, right? But at the same time, they don't get to see as much as we want to see. So it just really isn't all that interesting. And for me, you guys were talking about that, the family does get separated, and a good part of the second act is, getting them back together. And I found that really laborious. And I was just like, that. I just didn't buy everything that was happening. And I did, it just made the movie grind to a halt because we lost track of everything else that was happening. And then once they got together, you wind that back up and let's go, get back to the movie. And that was such a weird structure to do. And I don't think it was necessary. I think, there's 100 different ways you could have had the same journey and not go to that length, and possibly made it a little bit more stressful. You could still have the same encounters, you could still have the same kind of problems, but it just wore it so thin that, oh man. And then of course you talk about Scott Glenn. I'd forgotten he was even going to be in the movie, and then he literally shows up sort of toward the end of the second act. So don't want a whole lot of Scott Glenn in your movie. You'll be fine. The title is misleading too, because it's not incorrect, but we don't they don't say anything about Greenland until 45-minute mark or the hour mark or something like that. And it's just, what a mess. This movie is a mess. It's earnest, right? It certainly wanted to do something, and it made its choices. It stuck to those choices, and it delivered those choices. But they didn't quite pull together. So it's really, I hate giving. I'm going to give this a 2, and I kind of hate myself for doing it because I want to give it more, but it just doesn't earn it. I don't think it earns it. Favorite scene. A couple of the tense scenes come to mind. I too was going to go for the plane ride. I thought that was really well done, and probably more stressful than anything else. Although I still don't think they. Well, we won't go there. I think I'm going to go with the beginning with the whole phone call thing, and he gets the call, and he's selected, him and his family, and but nobody else is, and everybody's trying to figure it out, and that whole element of sudden mistrust, right? They're suddenly, they're basically at this party, and they're all together, and everybody's friendly, and then suddenly, like that, they're the object of, what's going on? How come you got that call and we didn't, right? And that it felt like it just felt like a much bigger ticking time bomb than they took it. But I found that very stressful and very urgent and immediate, probably more so than when the plane was its own ticking time bomb, right, with the gas rolling across the tarmac, right? And I was like, okay, that's predictable, right? But the other thing is like, okay, I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know, which person in this scene is going to blow up and do something stupid. And and they kind of come back to that later on the truck, right? When he's riding the truck in a different way, but it's the same kind of concept, but a little bit more rote, right? I don't know. I'm going to shut up now. I think I got my point across.
I tell you one thing though, I hate that little kid. The kid is the cause for all their major issues.
He just wanted his blankie, man.
You think the importance of you having to use insulin because of your diabetes, and you think your blankie's more important than your medicine?
He didn't know.
I just wanted to punch that kid in his face.
It's like, why didn't your parents keep that?
You just, he basically put his family through all that because he wanted his blankie. I think he understands the importance. I don't know. Anyway.
See,
now I'm getting mad all again.
All right.
This is making me mad.
There's our review for Greenland. It's out now on VOD. It's there for you to watch if you this was going to come out in August. Wow. This year sucks. This year is worse than this movie. Man. All right. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. Christopher, Dave, thank you for joining me. This was a fun discussion. Might have been more fun than the movie itself.
Potentially.
I would say so. Much more entertaining.
All right. Shall we say goodnight?
All right.
Good night.
Yeah,
Go wake
Dave?
up Scott Glenn.
Oh, no. Hello.